Hey, welcome back everyone. I'm Corbin.
I'm Brandon.
And I'm Alana.
And we're the Realist Reviews. Today we're going to be talking about what we've been streaming during quarantine. And a little bit of a disclosure. We get into some spoiler warning territory, so you've been warned. Okay, let's check it out. So the first show that I'm going to talk about is Aggretsuko on Netflix. I think I started this show maybe about a year or so ago when it came out. I think the third season just came out, so they kind of wanted me to get back into it. But it's about a really adorable fox who has an office job and just kind of goes through the the typical 9-to-5 office environment, kind of awkwardness and getting kind of crapped on all the time, and just that built-up rage that you kind of get from this everyday stress life. And she expresses it at karaoke in the form of metal screaming. So yeah, I'd say up until that last part is very, it's just really relatable. I'd say so, just, working a typical 9-to-5 job. First season, just about Aggretsuko, kind of her life, kind of just establishing what she does, where she lives, her lifestyle. Second season is more focused on kind of like her romance life. Her mom gets involved to her dismay, kind of surprises her in her own apartment without Aggretsuko knowing, which she doesn't really like that. I mean, I don't blame her. Navigating her love life while her own personal life and her friendships and that sort of thing, and so that's just becomes a lot more relatable. The music's really, really cool. She gets her frustration out just kind of by summarizing what's happened to her, like maybe her boss just yelled at her or something, and she goes and screams it out during karaoke and listening to playing heavy metal and that sort of thing, so it's really, really cool. Another thing that's really cool about it is just kind of like the juxtaposition of this cute little fox who screams all these crazy, gets all of her rage out at karaoke, and it's funny, silly, and lighthearted. But by the third season, she ends up getting an accident, gets into debt, and the person that she hits, coincidentally enough, offers her a job to help manage a pop idol group, and it gets a little bit more and more, a little crazier, a little bit more ridiculous. She ends up managing the group and then even ends up in the group. So overall, it's a really funny show. It's got that relatable aspect and then maybe the not so relatable part, but yeah, I've been really enjoying Aggretsuko. The next show I want to talk about, well, I guess it's a movie, really, is Howl's Moving Castle. It's been around for forever, well, I guess since the early 2000s. I finally just got around to watching it on HBO Max, getting a little free trial action. But yeah, it's one of those movies that as soon as I saw it, I just kind of kicked myself, why haven't I seen this sooner? It was really, really good. The art style is really pretty. Of course, it's Miyazaki, Studio Ghibli, so of course they're very grand, wondrous kind of environments. Story is about a young woman who works in a shop. A mean witch comes by and shades her and puts a spell on her for no really reason, actually, just because she can, and turns the young woman into an old woman. So basically it's Sophie's journey, trying to find a witch or someone to help turn her back into her normal self. She meets a lot of really cool people, cool friends along the way. Of course, she finds Howl's Moving Castle, which is really cool. It's this kind of steampunk, sort of magical vessel. Voice actors are really famous. I didn't know this, and maybe until halfway into the movie, I kind of thought some of the voices sound familiar, and yeah, sure enough, Billy Crystal was one of the voices. He voices Calcifer, which is a flame, kind of a flame, I think, who has a spell on them or something like that. Yeah, Billy Crystal, a couple of other actors I can't remember right now, but yeah, that kind of makes it a little bit more exciting too. Some of my favorite moments are when it gets a little bit darker. Howl is a demon, I think, and he turns into this kind of crow demon at some point and kind of morphs back into a human sort of figure, and it's just kind of cool seeing it go from a lightheartedness to a darker sort of thing, and I like that sort of style. So yeah, I enjoyed that. That was one of my favorite moments, and just the Wicked Witch of Waste, when she gets her power zapped from her, it was kind of really cute to see her in her really, really old lady I guess fashion. She was just kind of just super cute looking around, I'm just an old lady. Yeah, that was another one of my favorite moments for that one. Definitely recommend this one too.
So, one of the Netflix shows that is definitely a must-watch. I was able to watch it since we've been stuck in quarantine. The first show is going to be Lock and Key. It's a story of a family that moves into a big creepy house. You think it's haunted, then the kid ends up finding all these magical keys with all these magical abilities. The story unfolds with hints from their father's past, who somehow he grew up in that house using all the magical keys. And of course there's a villain that is also in search of the keys. One of the really cool moments is there's a ghost key, and it lets you astral project outside of your body in spirit form, and it lets you go and haunt your friends. Very similar to the Anywhere key, which is a key that opens any door, and if you think of a location, it'll magically take you there. So I think that's a really cool show to watch. I think there's only one season out right now. It's called Lock and Key. The other TV show, it's a whole series. There's like 6, maybe even 9 seasons, and it's Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I was able to watch every episode, every season. My favorite episode is going to be from season 6. The episode is called The Body, where the gang uses magic and the Buffy essence to defeat a cybernetic enhanced demonoid. It's a really good episode. They've got like the Scooby Gang, where Willow, she plays a witch, and Giles is like the brain, and Xander, he plays kind of like the brawn. And of course Buffy, she's like the powerful heroine. She saves the day. Really great series. You gotta watch it if you haven't seen it. The last show I'm going to talk about is a new one. It's a Netflix original. It's called I Am Not Okay With This. That's the name of the show. It's your typical origin story that follows a teenage girl who's navigating the trials and tribulations of growing up in some small podunk town. She's got some weird friend that she meets who he lives in the neighborhood, and she's weird and he's weird and the high school is weird. And so she's dealing with the complexities of her family, her budding sexuality, and mysterious superpowers. And that's just the beginning, and it really opens up a really good season. The cast and the actors are really good. It's a definite must watch. Yeah, for sure. Thanks.
Hello everybody. So I'm going to be talking about 2 different movies. I have been watching throwbacks, like hard throwbacks to my adolescence. So I'm going to talk about The Color of Friendship, which is a 2000 Disney TV adaptation. It's based on actual events between these. It follows the friendship of these 2 girls in 1977, Piper Dellums and Mari Bach. Now, Piper Dellums is the daughter of an American congressman, Ron Dellums. He is extremely outspoken about being against apartheid in South Africa and across the world. There is Mari Bach, who is a white South African, and she is the daughter of a police officer, and they live in a manor and comfortably benefit from apartheid, and they have this maid. Her name is Flora, and Mari considers Flora her best friend. She doesn't realize that Flora is completely just tired with her life because of her racial blindness. What else can I say? So, Piper finally convinces her dad to allow them to take on and become a host family for a South African, foreign exchange student. And there are a lot of assumptions that go into this. And one of the best parts is when Mari gets off of the airplane and they meet for the first time. And it is awkward. It's like the most awkward it could possibly be. Because Piper and the Dellums are, an affluent black family. And Mari kind of at first treats them like trash, but she just doesn't understand, like, because she's from South Africa in 1977 and there's apartheid. So there's a lot. They go on, and Mari meets Ron Dellums for the first time, and she experiences the most intense culture shock that I think any child experienced ever. And she's surrounded in this room with a bunch of black politicians that she didn't even know existed because she's from South Africa. And she thinks it's a joke, and she starts to extremely panic. And they take her out because they're like, she's going through intense culture shock. We need to get her out of here. Let's take her back to the house. They go back to the house, and she locks herself in Piper's room. And everyone's freaking out, and the mom really comes in to save them. And they're like, you know, we made a lot of assumptions. We thought she was going to be black because she was from South Africa. She thought we were going to be white because we were politicians, and, you know, like, we lived like a happy, normal life in America at that time. I mean, normal for, we're not going to go there. You get it. Okay, so then it goes on, you know, like, they're starting to get to know each other. They become close. She has experiences where she's going to a school. They are exchanging culture in the ways that Mari teaches Piper, like, South African, like, racial slurs and nicknames, and because she thinks that she's calling her, like, the N-word, and it's really bad. It's very awkward, the whole thing. That leads to other arguments. It's a really intense film for a Disney film, but I think that it has a lot of notes that still ring true even now in 2020. So they get back, you know, Mari and Piper start to become, like, really close and best friends. And then one day they come back, and the South African embassy pretty much kidnaps Mari. And they take her back to the South African embassy because Stephen Biko has died. Now, if you don't know who Stephen Biko is, I definitely suggest Googling it, because that's a whole story in itself. But there are protests and everything that go up, and Mari doesn't know what's going on. Ron Dellums goes, threatens the South African embassy because he's a badass, and is like, no, you kidnapped her from her host family, and I'm going to take this to the press if you don't bring her back. And so they bring her back. But Mari, because she's, like, ignorant, and there's nothing wrong with being ignorant unless you don't want to change it, but she's ignorant, she makes a really in very poor taste comment to Piper, and Piper's, like, not having it that day because Stephen Biko was just, like, beaten and murdered by police, allegedly. So that causes tension, but eventually they, you know, kind of work through that, and it's a really good story about how Mari, this white South African, learns and grows to understand equality and, like, racial equality, and how she takes that back to South. Okay, the next movie I'm going to talk about is another throwback to 2004. I was 14 years old, and I saw this movie, and it is, I just thought of another movie I definitely need to rent right now. Okay, sorry. Back to this. Closer, 2004, directed by Mike Nicholas. Or Nicholas. One of those. Super good movie. Oh my gosh, still holds up. I've been rewatching a lot of old movies, and some of them do not hold up. This one holds up. So, opening scene is Alice, played by Natalie Portman. She's walking down the street, and she sees Dan, played by Jude Law. And they're like, I don't know, they see each other, they meet eyes in a crowd, you know, that kind of thing. Well, the Natalie Portman's character, Alice, gets hit by a car because she's in London, and she doesn't realize that their traffic comes from the right. And, you know, so she gets hit by a car. And Jude Law's character comes, and he's like, oh my gosh. And then he takes her to the hospital, and after they leave the hospital, they go to this park, and it's Postman's Park, and they have all these little, like, tiles with people's names on them, saying, like, all these wonderful things that they did throughout their lives, kind of thing. I'm sure it's real. and I'm sure you can go there if you're from the UK. Tell us about it. But they go there. Fast forward a year later, Dan writes a book about Alice's life, and he's getting his headshot done by Anna, who is this professional photographer, and played by Julia Roberts. Now, Julia Roberts, right? Well, her character and Jude Law's character Dan have like a little thing. Like, they have a little thing, right? They have a connection, and they kiss. And then Dan goes and gets Alice at the front door, and it blows everyone's mind, and we're like, what's going on? And so now Julia Roberts is in front of Natalie Portman's character Alice, and she's being, just a lady, and is like, yeah, my bathroom's through